Where's my friend? There he goes. Where's he going? He's right there. It's a toad. It's a toad. There he goes.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to my tea worm design, print, inject to fish to catch video. In this video, we are going to be designing, printing, injecting, fishing, and catching on my newest design, the tea worm. So the tea worm is actually going to be a really simple bait actually compared to some of my other ones. It's basically a wacky worm style rig meant to be fished on a small jig head for smallmouth. The 12 or so of you that are subscribed know that smallmouth are my favorite, and that's primarily what I make my lures to target. Large part of that is because smallmouth are just better than largemouth, and that's what's around my house to catch. Smallmouth bass are the superior bass. Anyway, so I'm setting up my datum planes here with cross-sectional sketches, so when I do my swept profile, the worm will taper down the length of the worm from the middle out towards the ends to give it some nice, I guess, flappy action, I guess you could call it. And it's got that tube cylinder coming out of the middle there just for the jig head to give it some more meat on it so it doesn't just, rip as soon as you catch a fish on it. And you'll see later in the video that design ends up being quite durable. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, with a few clicks of the button, I give you the tea worm. We're going to add some radii to the ends, smooth that profile out a little bit more, but basically that's it. We're done. And tea worm might not be the best name for this particular bait, because I guess if it was a T, the top is very long and the body is very short. But that, I don't know. If you can come up with something better, put it in the comments. I don't know. Maybe I'll use it. Maybe it'll inspire me to do some entirely new design. Honestly, I'm probably the best lure designer on YouTube right now. I've been cranking them out like a 12-year-old who just discovered the internet. 3D printed molds on YouTube. He's the best. Ask anyone, they'll tell you he's the best. Yeah, so anyway, we're going to set up our mold, do the boolean cuts, and then get the through holes through for the mold. And that's it. We're done. Just got to get stuff tweaked around, moved around, get it laid out just right. In other videos I've shown, why really the number of these bolt holes and getting the right clamping load on these parts is critical. And just like that, we're done, and we're gonna get it loaded into our 3D printing software straight away to get things 3D printed. And this is what setting up the slicer software looks like in super speed. And this is what 3D printing it looks like in super speed. Now this filament I tried out was actually a different filament than I do normally. This is a color changing glow in the dark PETG filament that is 3 times as expensive as my normal PETG filament, because I thought it would be cool to see the color change when I injected the mold with the hot molten plastic, and you can actually see it changing from that dark orangey reddy color to this to the yellow. So that is pretty cool. I will also say that the print quality on this filament just looked phenomenal. It just looked great. I know with some carbon fibers that'll the additives in there that'll stabilize the filament when it prints dimensionally. I think there was a similar thing going on here with the glow-in-the-dark powder. Regardless, with the color changing and with the temperature, you can really see that here as that hot plastic has heated up the molds. You could see that temperature gradient, which is really cool. And unfortunately, that was the only cool thing about this filament, because the plastic stuck to it and ripped in half, which means that all 6 of the molds I had printed were absolute junk.
Total garbage. Ask anyone, they'll tell you.
Luckily for me, on my other printers, I had set up to do studies with different types of filament for a different video idea I had, so I had some extras. And I had actually printed these with less layer lines and top and bottom layers than normal, just because I wanted to see how the heat would affect the different types of filament. So there, the green is PLA, the black was Rapid PLA+, this is glow-in-the-dark PLA+, the white is regular just PLA+, this gray here, gotta give it a squirt, this gray here is Silk PLA, and the back is my regular PETG filament, just Chinese brand cheap stuff off Amazon. And really what I wanted to do was study how the molds changed with the heat and how they warped and how the different filaments held up to that. That's not going to be the topic of this video, but it will be a topic of a future video I have planned with not only all these different types of PLAs and PETGs, also nylons, polycarbonates, polypropylene, PCTG, a whole bunch of different stuff. Anyway, I got a bunch of usable baits from these molds, so I headed down to the river and discovered I forgot my SD card for my new camera. Also, the river was high and muddy from some of the worst flooding we've had all summer. We had 6 inches of rain in one night, and it took almost like 5 days for the river to come back down to normal. And I didn't catch any fish and broke off my jig head that day. So I returned the next day with my SD card in hand and clipped my new Amazon special cheapo body camera to my shirt collar, because I was hoping that was going to give a good field of view for the fish, and as you can see by my chinny chin chin there, it did not. I did end up catching a lot of fish that day, and you're going to see some clips of that now. Again, I apologize because the footage is not the greatest. I do get that straightened out the next day I go out, which is later in the video. But here's my first fish of the day.
How about that?
And ladies and gentlemen, that proves that these fish love the T1. And let me tell you, we're 8 minutes into a 23-minute video. You know you're going to see some more fish.
Well, smallmouth.
A little smallmouth indeed. Not long after that, this happened.
I could see something on top over there.
I saw something on top indeed.
Oh, that was a fish. I missed him.
But third time's the charm.
There's one. How about that? Number 2. Hooked on the bottom lip. There he goes.
And when I got home and realized this camera footage was messed up, I felt like such an idiot because I did particularly well this day. If it's bothering you, you can skip on forward. Anyway, not long after that second fish, I caught my third fish on the team worm. Lovely view of my chin and nose there, just wonderful.
See? Look at that.
I'm sure the audience at home would love to look at that, but instead you have the camera pointed up your nose, which was just wonderful.
Nice color on him.
I'm sure the audience would love to see the nice color on him, but instead they have your chin and nose, my guy. Some really grade A camera work. I should have taken this out of the video, but I'm not. This next part, I'm particularly disappointed I didn't catch properly on video because this was actually pretty cool. I'm just going to let this film roll and speak for itself.
That's a little better one. Number 4. And they like this one. Oh shit! Back to back, that's a better one.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, back-to-back smallmouth on a freshly designed bait, and all I have to show for it is a video of my nose, with a fleeting glimpse of the fish that you'll see here in a second.
Come on, brother.
Just won't you just take a look at that beautiful fish? We just caught it right there. I feel like SpongeBob pointing out the episode where Mr. Krabs has got him in the background of the Krusty Krab in the commercial, and he's like, "Gary, look, there I am, Gary!"
There we go. Back to back.
Despite the terrible footage, this was actually a pretty darn good day of fishing, and I had a great time for the hour that I was down there, so that was fun. Knowing this lure worked as well as it did, I knew I couldn't leave it at that, so the next day I went back out
Ooh.
and immediately lost a fish.
That was a little guy. I wonder if I got that on video.
This time you did get it on video, and you also got your trek across the river in waist-deep water on video. Much better camera angles this time around. Instead of clipping the camera to my chest, my shirt collar, I clipped it to a baseball hat that I scurried around my house to find because I knew I had a baseball hat somewhere but couldn't find one until I did. But after all that effort, this happened. That's right, I got snagged. Except this snag has a somewhat happy ending, I guess? I don't know. It's 10:30 at night right now. I'm trying to record this video before I go to bed. I have to be up in 7.5 hours for work. R.I.P. Wish me luck, thanks. But I decided to include this in the video because this is why I use braided line on an ultralight. Right
If I break off.
Here.
Oh, I got it back, I think.
This is 20-pound Power Pro braid. This is what I use on my ultralights for the river because I know I can straighten my hooks out and get my lures back.
I don't know what's down there that's so prone to snagging, but I snag something on that every... There's one. Oh, you fuck!
Just so much raw emotion in the moment, you know? It was great. But I digress. Eventually, we made it happen.
You're staying on. Alright. He's a dark one.
Albeit a smallmouth. A smallmouth nonetheless.
Smallmouth.
The first smallmouth where you can actually see him on camera on my new lure to prove my lures work.
Oh, there he goes. Alright.
And it wasn't long after that until this happened.
There's another one. Check me out. Alright.
Having success on my T-worm design, I decided to grab my fly rod I had taken with me to try out my soft plastic dragonfly lure. I've caught fish on this before, not on the fly rod, but I wanted to give the fly rod a try just because I wanted to see what would happen. I found that in fishing and trying out these new lures and this sort of thing, just trying things that you've never done before is half the battle. So we gave it a couple casts, and nothing in particular really happened, to be quite honest. So I decided that clearly the problem was the direction I had the dragonfly mounted onto the hook, and I decided to flip the hook around and hook it up through the tail, because clearly that was the problem and why the fish were just not enticed by this lure on this fly rod. So I gave that a try for a while, and that didn't work either. So I stole my T-worm off my jig head and put it on the fly rod because I was determined I wanted to catch something on this fly rod. Steelhead season's coming up soon. I need practice for these steelhead in the fall. And practice makes perfect because after a few casts, this happened. My line got all tangled up and decided I had had enough of fly fishing for the day. So I went back to what was catching me fish, and on the very first cast, with going back to the jig head and the T-worm, this happened.
There's a greenie. Let's try to...
He really swallowed that bait. He wanted it pretty bad. And according to the timelines on my videos, 8 minutes and 2 seconds later, this happened.
I watched him hit it.
I'm really running out of things to say in the narration. Please enjoy this next fish.
There's another one.
While admittedly I wasn't catching anything with much size, I was catching fish, and that's what's important.
Little guy. They like this one, dude, man. They really...
They like this one indeed. And with that, I started heading back to my truck, taking some casts, and my final spot for the day. As always, the 3D printed molds and the CAD models for these lures are available at www.3dprintedmolds.com. Hope to see you there.